Part 52. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 520. Lu Feng was helpless when he saw her burst into tears. Every executive had their own needs. Some wanted employee equity, some wanted high annual salary, and some wanted to manage a department by themselves without others interfering. Lu Feng could be satisfied, but when facing Zhang Fengxia, he didn't know what to take to keep her. After talking about a lot of things in life, Zhang Xiaoyan said the most, and Zhang Fengxia persuaded him to go out for a while. The new factory area is continuous rotation, people change shifts, and the machines do not stop. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the factory manager received a phone call, and the 3 shifts were changed to 1 shift. As long as the inventory reaches the red line, production will be stopped immediately. Upon receiving this news, the management of the factory was completely dumbfounded, and did not know why such a big order was given in such a hot sales situation. In the factory director's office, a group of management members gathered together and smoked cigarettes. On the chair sat a middle-aged man with a flat head with a gloomy and scary expression. "What's going on here? The sudden production cut, the market is in short supply, and there are a lot of people calling me to get the goods these days." "That's right, the brains above are sick. I said before I came to this factory that GFN Electronics is notorious in the industry. The top management is a pig's brain, and the old man is always a relationship person. Such a hard backstage, even if he has been mixed up to this day, it is also useless. Factory director, if production is stopped, will you be paid overtime? How do we calculate our salary?" "It's all right, I'll make a phone call and ask. I can't do it if I stay in 1 class, and ask if I can stay in 2 classes. The warehouse is still empty. Vice President Yan, our production." 10 minutes later, Vice President Yan knocked on the door of Zhang Fengxia's office and asked, "Mr. Zhang, there is no stock in the warehouse, and the workers also want to work more overtime." "Okay." Zhang Fengxia raised her head and stared at Vice President Yan with sharp eyes, and shouted, "Are you haggling with me? Do you know what execution is? I didn't understand enough. The production is 1 shift before the stock reaches the red line, and production stops after it reaches the red line, and the execution is fine. This kind of thing doesn't need to be considered in the factory." "Okay, I get it. Who asked you to come?" Zhang Fengxia stopped him and asked. "The people in the factory asked you to ask." No, they just react to the situation, that is, the market." "What about the market? They understand the market? What does the marketing department do?" "The new factory has recruited a lot of new management. Don't bring me some stinky problems, you still come to ask me?" Zhang Fengxia's face became more and more ugly, and she shouted, "Deduct half a month's salary from you, and fire the new factory manager for me." "No, Mr. Zhang." When Vice President Yan saw Zhang Fengxia looking at him, he didn't dare to speak. If he continued, he would also be fired, so he nodded and went out. As he walked out of the office, there was a cold sweat behind him. He had just served as the vice president for a short time, and he felt that he would not be able to work for long. He secretly scolded the director of the new factory in his heart. Under the night, VCDs galloped away from the major factories one after another. The huge benefits of production and stocking in just 10 days brought the strongest productivity of capital. Everyone was full of energy and wanted to make a profit in this new technology outbreak. The young people who were at the dinner before unloaded the goods at night. He spent more than half of his wealth on the purchase of motherboards, and then bought some cheap accessories for assembly. He set up a small workshop and found 7 or 8 workers. He could assemble it all within 2 days, and the cost was less than $3,000, selling one is a profit of 400 or 500. The young man didn't do much work. After moving 100 VCD motherboards, his forehead was sweating. He raised his head and looked at the stars in the sky. I will confidently stand on the stage and speak out tomorrow, paying tribute like an idol. After he finished speaking, he looked at the main board in the workshop, and the cheap matching plastic shells piled aside. He felt an indescribable sense of accomplishment. It was the first time in his life to start a business. Under the night, the newspaper was correcting the news layout. A middle-aged man wearing glasses gave a serious feeling. Looking at the headlines in front of him, it was, Lu Feng, a man standing on the altar. When will we be able to mix with adults like this? The middle-aged man stretched his waist and said to the person next to him with a smile on his face. Don't think about it if you don't have power, but this Lu Feng is quite young, so why spend so much money? A young man next to him slapped his mouth and said. You think a piece of clothing costs $1,000, and a pair of leather shoes costs a few $100s. Who do you sell it to? It's all these people who buy it. Shwedeo, you just arrived, and our unit is not bad, as long as it is stable. The man patted the young man on the shoulder. Said, no problem, let's print it. Bien Shwedeo stood up and said, okay, we're pretty good, even if we stay up late at night, we don't know how long we'll stay up. Nowadays, many media like to confer gods. The last man to be conferred gods was President Mao. The newspaper media exploded in the 1990s, and various private media appeared in large numbers, and the competition for news content was extremely fierce. The next day, early in the morning, the major electrical stores opened their doors, and every store owner's face was full of confidence, welcoming the new day's rush to buy. After Lu Feng woke up and finished his meal, a stack of newspapers was placed on the table, with a small newspaper on top with the title Lu Feng standing on the altar. Zhang Fengxia was eating, looking at the newspaper with joy, and said, do I have to offer you up in the future? This newspaper blows too much, saying that you are the number one person through the ages. Let me read it to you, Mr. Lu Feng. He has a full face and looks like wealth. Through the comparison of pictures, we found that he is very similar to the ancient rich man Shen Wanzan, and he is expected to become the new god of wealth after many years, ha 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 ha. Lu Feng couldn't take it any longer. Earlier, he introduced a bunch of experiences he imagined, such as sleeping in a cowshed, having to eat, and accumulating step by step and finally becoming famous. In order to sell these newspapers, they fought hard, Lu Feng said with a wry smile. I was busy with everything in front of me, but today I have nothing to do. After dinner, I read the newspaper and call Zhang Xiaoyan to chat. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the rush to buy started. The buying crowd first went to the major counters of the Golden Leopard, and then heard that there were cheaper ones next to them, and began to compare. In the past, because the supply of goods was tight, it caused customers a feeling that they could not think about it. As long as they hesitated, they were bought by others. Now that the supply of goods at major counters is sufficient, they are not in a hurry. It's a bad start, shop around, and it's not a star. At 11 o'clock in the morning, all the major companies received a message that GFN Electronics' new factory output was reduced by 2/3. Li Quanliang was very happy to hear the news. Lu Feng was obviously still aware of the imminent danger and wanted to step on the brakes, but unfortunately it was too late. The cost of 50 million plus the investment in the new factory area is too high. As long as the sales of VCDs plummet, GFN Electronics will be completely dragged down. Mr. Zheng was even more excited when he heard the news. Success was just around the corner. No matter how it developed, he would achieve success. Other factories saw GFN Electronics' fear. The Golden Leopards take a step back and they can take a step forward, which is a good start. At noon, Lu Feng didn't eat and went directly to the legal department. There were only a dozen people in the legal department before, mainly responsible for contract formulation and legal risks. Last time, Lu Feng said that he wanted to expand the legal team. With the budget in place, There were more than 70 lawyers sitting in the office at the moment. Lu Feng walked in and pressed his hand towards the crowd and let them sit. Most of these lawyers were hired temporarily, and Lu Feng could only beg that there should be no lawyers like Zhang Wei in this group. During this period of time, everyone has a task to search for various pirated VCDs in the market, find the location of the factory, and then sue for compensation. As long as there is no jurisdiction, file a lawsuit in the city's court. My request is only one, that is, if you can file bankruptcy, don't take it lightly. If you can't file bankruptcy, ask the local Industry and Commerce Bureau to fine and seal it up on the grounds of infringement. Lu Feng looked at them and said solemnly, I know that many of you are from law firms. I don't care so much about the compensation. 3 or 7 points, you get 3, you sue him, pay 1 million, and I will give you 300,000. There was applause at the scene, and everyone was excited. This is a big job. Now, pirated VCDs are rampant in the market. Any manufacturer, which one does not have assets of several million? At 1 o'clock noon, the sales of Golden Leopard VCDs were less than half of that of yesterday, and the competition in the electrical city was unprecedentedly fierce. Some merchants have too much stock and need to pay back as soon as possible. Depending on the situation, they will cut prices immediately. In a small market in an electrical city, the first wave of vicious competition has formed, and the market has begun to collapse. VCD. VCD, only 3,450, missed today, regret for a year. Buy a VCD? Come, I have it, it's cheap, I'll do an event today. Not only in the electric city, but the young man from last night assembled 25 VCDs in the morning. He didn't have a store, so he set up a stall next to the electric city. When I set up the things, I thought that the price of 3,440 would be sold like crazy, but no one even saw it when they passed by. A few days ago, the users were centralized, and those in need would rush to the Golden Leopard counter, causing a hard-to-find scene. Today, everyone has taken out the goods. There are many various sales channels, and users are diverted. As Lu Feng said, the current VCD market is less than 5% of that of videotapes. It will take time to expand the market. The first time a young man started a business, he stood at the gate of the electrical city and sold it for 2 hours. His mood was completely broken. He pulled a person and asked, "Brother, look at the VCD. These are all products from manufacturers, cheap, and 1,004, from the Golden Leopard. One of them is 50 yuan more expensive than yours. It's not easy to use it when I go back. Who should I go to?" The elder brother turned his head and was ready to leave. "If you buy with integrity, I can get another 3,000 cheaper. How about making friends?" The young man was anxious. One of the trading principles that he did not understand was that when the price bottom line was easily broken down, it meant that there was no bottom line. The elder brother left, and the young man looked at the surrounding shops. Those shop assistants stood on the street pulling people. The market changed overnight, from a seller's market to a buyer's market. The pirate army has arrived. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 521. In a dozen or so important provincial markets, this situation occurs to varying degrees in the concentrated electrical city area. In fact, large manufacturers are not afraid of such competition at all, and prices can be stabilized. The first thing that could not be sustained was some small assembly workshops. They smashed their property into it. Seeing that the market wind was not going in the right direction, they wanted to sell the stop loss as soon as possible. As long as one person starts doing this, it will have a knock-on effect, causing a market avalanche. As long as users hear that someone has bought the same product at a lower price, they will doubt the value of such a product. In the afternoon, the situation was even worse. Several golden leopard counters were completely unsold. There were a lot of people who came to see them, but very few people bought. After switching to a few counters, the urge to buy in my heart was almost wiped out. Either buy a cheap one. Yes, or wait and see, it's a big deal after all. Zhu Lidong noticed the changes in the market immediately, called several dealers, and the feedback made him panic. After thinking about it, let's report to Lu Feng the market situation and make him think it's over. Lu Feng made himself a cup of tea. This afternoon was considered a half-day vacation. There was a VCD in the office, and the Cantonese version of Mr. Zombie was playing. Although the film was shot in 1985, people still enjoyed it. Zhang Fengxia was also sitting on the sofa and watching. Feng Xiao sat by the window and watched intently. The phone on the desk rang, and Zhang Fengxia was so frightened that she turned her head and asked, "Who is it?" "It scared me to death." Lu Feng picked up the phone and asked, "Who is it?" "Mr. Lu, it's me. The market fluctuates greatly. Some time ago, I noticed the increase in piracy. Today, it broke out completely. The dealers reported that the price of many products was very low, which caused our sales to plummet," Zhu Lidong said eagerly. "Oh, I see," Lu Feng asked, "is there anything else?" "I'm watching the movie. Mr. Lu, I can feel that the competition in this market is very fierce. Should we step back? Many dealers called me and asked us to crack down on piracy, otherwise they would not be able to sell. Piracy can't be cured, don't lower the price, sell as little as you can, and it will be fine." After a while Lu Feng's voice showed nonchalance, and said, "Don't rush to get angry, it's useless, calm down, the factory has already cut production, don't be afraid." Zhu Lidong noticed Lu Feng's indifference. If he thinks there is no problem, then there is no problem. After briefly explaining the situation, he hung up the phone. "Then call the dealer and tell the other party directly," Mr. Lu said, "not to lower the price. Don't panic, be afraid of a ball." Since the last incident, the dealers' trust in Zhu Lidong has not been so good. On the contrary, they have a lot of trust in Lu Feng, which is also regarded as Lu Feng's unintentional reduction of Zhu Lidong's authority in the marketing department. With the sky getting dark, today is the first time that the Golden Leopard has not been sold out since it was launched. This state makes many people feel uneasy, but some people still have illusions, thinking that tomorrow will be fine. Tomorrow is the weekend, there are many people who plan to buy VCDs will spare time. The next day, panic began to appear in the market, led by young entrepreneurs. He no longer dared to buy goods. He originally thought that he would be able to sell 100 machines within 2 or 3 days, but none of them were sold yesterday. Some manufacturers who couldn't bear it began to cut prices, and major manufacturers were still producing frantically. Even big manufacturers such as Mr. Zheng and Li Quanliang felt that there was too much stock in the market and were ready to stop production at any time. There are too many products spilling over, and the market cannot digest them. The accumulation in the warehouse will depress a lot of cash flow. The big manufacturers already feel that something is wrong, but the small and medium manufacturers have not yet felt the crisis. And there are more people who have come into the industry with hindsight. They are smuggled out of the factory and wholesaled to the outside world. The motherboards that have emerged from various channels are frantically flowing into some small workshops, and they are in the hands of the masters. These people believe that the current VCD outlet is just like the smuggled TV sets of the year, which will only make crazy profits and will always have a market. This force drives the market forward, and no matter how hard the brakes of Da Chang are, they will not stop. The news of the plummeting sales of Golden Leopard VCDs quickly attracted attention from various media, and another day of writing began. The middle-aged man in the newspaper looked at the headline and sighed, and said to the young man next to him, "Look, it was still yesterday. Standing on the altar." The young man glanced at it and burst out laughing. The title was, Golden Leopard VCD sales plummeted, Lu Feng fell to the altar. The scene was full of laughter, and everyone sighed that the newspaper office was still working steadily. Such people have ups and downs. They fly into the sky today, fall down tomorrow, and fall into pieces. In the dark of night, the dinner party was still lively, but many people began to hesitate. People who decided to invest in VCD a few days ago are afraid to go in now. I heard that Jinbao is not in production? Mr. Liang, didn't you say that you and Lu Zong are good brothers? Give me a call and ask. That's right, you kept saying to call Mr. Lu here. It's been a few days, and he hasn't come yet. You can't say buy your materials, and then the market won't be able to sell them. With an embarrassed look on his face, Liang Lijiao hurriedly picked up his wine glass and said, "Everyone, be quiet, there are too many people doing VCDs now, and the market will eliminate some junk products, and then it's fine. Our PCB boards are my good brother's supplier. There is absolutely no problem with the quality, let me tell you, the price has risen sharply these days. I think the price will drop after a period of time. Buy a batch and go back to stock it. When the VCD market is available, it will definitely make a lot of money. This product is driven by the future, you know." The mood at the scene was a little unstable, but everyone still chose to believe it. Liang Lijiao didn't take a photo with Lu Feng, but because of Lu Feng's fame, he made a lot of money. Early the next morning, Jiafeng Electronics published a letter of announcement in several newspapers and media, demanding that companies that have infringed on the patent right immediately stop the infringement and will take further legal procedures. In the morning, the team of lawyers brought all 19 manufacturers including Golden Leopard, Quan Leopard, Real Golden Leopard and Ganbao to the court, demanding to stop the infringement, and proposed different compensation amounts for different manufacturers, with a total claim amount of 160 million. 10 million. As soon as the news came out, various media called Jiafeng Electronics and wanted to interview. Zhu Lidong and Zhang Fengxia were interviewed in 2 places respectively, saying that piracy had seriously damaged the interests of the company, and they would sue to the end, trust the law. At the same time, he hinted in the interview that behind these manufacturers is not the support of small enterprises, but the malicious competition of some large companies. A dark commercial battle has formed a storm in the reporter's mind. Today, the army of pirates has completely attacked, and the price of Golden Leopard VCD remains unchanged. The data returned by the dealer shows that the sales volume has plummeted by 80%. Only more than 5,000 units were sold yesterday, and it is still falling. When Mr. Zhang came to the company in the morning, he was so excited like a child that he almost jumped up and down. After reading the newspaper, he was happy to drink porridge. After so many years, it was finally his turn. Call Mr. Lu to comfort him. Mr. Zhang picked up the phone with a smile on his face and called Lu Feng. "Hello, Mr. Lu." "It's me, what's wrong?" Lu Feng asked. "Me, your brother," Mr. Zhang sighed and comforted. "I also read the newspaper, and domestic piracy is really strong now, but in business, there are profits and losses. I'm also sorry for you. What's the difficulty with my brother? Say." "Okay, why did you remember to call me?" Lu Feng asked very plainly. "Don't be sad, if you fall down and get up, it's really hateful to piracy, but there's really nothing you can do. Even if you go to sue, it's useless. Now the law can't handle this. It doesn't hurt. Right? Those people are more than just things. They're not as good as pigs and dogs." "Mr. Zhang, are you saying I'm scolding right?" Lu Feng asked. "Yes, you're right. Those people should go out and get hit by a car, choked to death, wife derailed, train derailed, alien meteorites fall on the earth, and they should be killed first," Lu Feng scolded viciously. Mr. Zhang couldn't stand being scolded. He took a deep breath and said, "Mr. Lu, it's hard for everyone, there's no need to scold you so hard, I can understand you, can you stand it now? I can't stand talking to my brother, I have something to do. Just say hello. Lu Feng slammed his mouth and said tentatively, the money is almost burned out, I really can't bear it anymore. In this situation, financing is impossible, worry. If you don't do this, I will help you. If you can't bear it, you will file for bankruptcy and reorganization. I will enter the market with the funds. The key is to let GFN Electronics survive. This is your hard work. Ah, Mr. Zhang said regretfully. Lu Feng was delighted to hear this, so he couldn't bear it anymore. Okay, you are really my good brother. You should look at your character when it's critical. Even if someone else bids more, I'll hold you tight first, Lu Feng said. Being a brother should be. Then I'll hang up. Lastly, I'm going to say, producing pirated products. Lu Feng hung up the phone after he finished speaking. Mr. Zhang froze on the spot listening to the blind tone on the phone, slammed the phone on the table, and shouted, Go to Nima, what arrogance, you won't even be qualified to talk to me after a while. The two sides went crazy in the market, the media, and the court. Both sides resisted very hard. He Jiali couldn't take it anymore. When GFN Electronics collapsed, half of his industrial park was destroyed, and nearly 2 employees were involved. Million people. He couldn't bear this loss, so after thinking about it, he called Lu Feng to ask if he could stop, and the two sides could mediate and make concessions to each other. Now the court is facing GFN Electronics lawsuit, which is also a headache. Many defendants have local jurisdiction. Some factories have just been established recently, which has also brought a number of jobs. Reconciliation, for Hijiali, can maximize the benefits. Hello? What about Lu Feng? Hijiali asked, where are you now? If you are here, would you like to have dinner together at night? I'm in Suzhou, what's wrong? Lu Feng asked. It's just going to the court to sue the piracy. Can we mediate it privately? There are many companies involved. We value peace and make money from peace. Do you think it can be done like this? Of course Lu Feng knew what Hijiali was thinking, and said thoughtfully, they want my life. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 522. Hijiali is very clear about one thing, that is, the compensation required by the lawsuit is simply impossible. As long as the local government dares to punish these enterprises will close down. What do other cities think? What do you think? The current market is very irregular, and everyone is desperately pulling businesses. If a fine is seized here, and a large number of them close down, those cities will definitely fight back. The most difficult thing now is the court. GFN Electronics has put pressure on the court to follow the formal provisions to ensure that it can be fined. The problem is that the consequences are very serious. And it will fuel up unhealthy winds and disrupt the market. Hijiali felt Huang Youwei's pain for the first time. He was squeezed between the two sides. All he could do was to communicate with the leaders of other cities on the phone, do more work, and try to reconcile. Lu Feng didn't have any hope for Hijiali. He knew better than anyone what the current environment was like. Mr. Zhang in the previous life was so disappointed in the patent right that he didn't even register it. The competition in the market has become a mess, and many people can't bear it anymore and have begun to scold Lu Feng. In the small workshop, the young man's face is green with worry. A few days ago, he was complacent that he had become a small boss. Then become the big boss. Unexpectedly, within a few days, he could not survive the blow. Boss, do you have to be paid if you don't work? An employee asked. Here, it's settled today. The young man was smoking a cigarette, his hair was messed up like a bird's nest. "Will you come tomorrow?" another person asked. "I'm out of money now, let's do it, you guys can get a VCD and pay the bills." The young man felt bitterness as he spoke. After a long time of commotion, 7 workers took 3 VCDs away at a very low price. Only the young man was left in the workshop. Go to Nima's idol, what a humming VCD. It's all liars, fooling people. Start a business. Go to Nima, I don't play anymore, give me back the money, give me back. He squatted on the ground and cried bitterly. The blood of regret in my heart, the house here is rented, the people are hired, the motherboard is bought at a high price, and it is all my own money. Smart people like him are unknown all over the country. Some departments have noticed the chaos in the market. If this vicious competition continues, it will only affect the industrial ecology. The Ministry of Market Development and Management has urgently published a Notice of Market Regulations, prohibiting enterprises from engaging in vicious competition and violating the rules of free market trading. The patent rights should be respected and protected, and unfair competition should be severely cracked down. To avoid abnormal competition in the market and suppress the benign corporate ecological environment, the VCD market is an emerging technology market. It should be cherished like a seedling, and it is a responsibility to regulate the market as soon as possible. We are concerned that the bad competition in the market has increased this year, and we will interview relevant companies in batches, make rectifications in a timely manner, and recognize mistakes. The whole article is full of scenes. It seems that someone criticized someone. Looking closely, he felt that no one was criticizing, just a statement. After watching the report, Lu Feng sat in his seat and pondered it for a while. "I don't understand, what do you mean?" Zhang Fengxia asked, leaning her neck. "Generally speaking, we already know about this matter, don't overdo it, correct it yourself, or you'll have to intervene." Lu Feng put the newspaper aside. "It's such a long article, so that's what it means." Zhang Fengxia took the newspaper and looked at the dense words on it. "I didn't expect mediation either. There is no need to mediate this matter. If you rely on them, just wait for the closure. Domestic industrial upgrading is like building a fish pond, placing some local fry, feeding them first, and growing up. Just get some big fish from outside to fight." Lu Feng said with a long sigh of relief. "There is no Zhang San, and Li Si. But now my fish bites my own fish." Feng Xiao said worriedly, "I am afraid to help my own son, not our adopted one." Lu Feng looked at him, but he didn't expect that he also knew that the state-owned enterprise was his own son, and said casually, "As long as you are filial, you are a good son. This time is almost over. Any news from Huang Youwei?" Zhang Fengxia shook her head and said, "No, he has been quiet recently. Waiting for He Jiali to find them. They definitely want to reconcile, but the place to meet and talk has to be chosen well. Dongguan is the base camp of VCD, those people will definitely not go. Choose their place, I will not go either. Suzhou is a compromise solution." Lu Feng leaned back on the chair, narrowed his eyes, and said, "Wait, hold your breath." He Jiali couldn't hold back his anger after reading the guidance issued above. He saw that no matter what company it was, they just wanted a VCD company. At this time, if GFN Electronics is supported by the top, it will send a very strong signal to other enterprises, that is, they dare not let large private enterprises fall. Private enterprises are afraid to fail, and the state-owned enterprises are more rigid. The whole article is about patent rights and the market, which is enough to see the meaning of the above. He Jialiko's face was twisted. He didn't have any tricks. He called many state-owned enterprises and didn't sell his face at all. After thinking about it, he could only think of Huang Youwei. Picked up the phone and called Huang Youwei. "Hello, brother Huang," He Jiali called very kindly. "Ha ha ha ha," Huang Youwei laughed happily, took the phone and joked, What's the matter, Xiao He? I really don't know what to do. You see, if you can make a move, the local municipal government will lead the formation of a bureau, borrow other names, gather all these people together, and have a good talk. GFN Electronics can't fail, and it won't do you any good. What's the benefit? He Jiali said into the phone. I really can't take it anymore. The big deal is to let Lu Feng split up the VCD business and sell it. It won't affect the TV set, it won't affect me. Huan Yowei smiled very relaxedly. It's not a business problem now, it's someone who is staring at GFN Electronics. It's a hole. Besides, without the VCD business returning blood, the TV set is also difficult to support. These people have no source of income, so naturally they will not consume, which will affect the self-employed. He Jiali reminded. The local economy is a chain reaction. The collapse of a pillar enterprise is a devastating blow to some cities with a single industry, such as energy-based cities. Once coal and oil collapse, the city will collapse directly. GFN Electronics does not dare to say that it is a pillar type, but it also has a great influence. With the Wipta TV factory as the center, it has driven a series of industries and consumption. If you eat meat, I can't even eat your bones, so I have to wipe your ass. Huan Yowei sighed and said, okay, who made this kid have a good relationship with me? After chatting for a long time, the two hung up the phone. Huan Yowei sat there silently and pondered. There was a knock on the door. Huan Yowei came back to his senses and said, come in. The deputy mayor in charge of commerce came in, sat opposite Huan Yowei and said, Secretary Huang, the province called and asked us to help with GFN Electronics. I'll handle it, this bastard will cause trouble for me. Huan Yowei sighed, somewhat dissatisfied. I think the development model of GFN Electronics is very problematic. Its problems will not happen for a while, and will appear in the future. Such a company is too aggressive, the deputy mayor worried. Lu Feng is such a person. This kind of person is suitable for conquering the world, not for sitting in the world. You can't let him play like this. Now is a good opportunity. Huan Yowei raised his eyelids with a ruthless look. What do you mean? I saw from the beginning that this kid is restless, thinking about promoting foreign acquisitions. First, he can introduce foreign capital and develop relatively stable. Second, he can restrict him. I tell you, give him 5 billion, and he dares to add. Buy Wall Street with 100 times leverage, do you believe it? Huan Yowei asked. The deputy mayor laughed and nodded, Thuxin, this person is so reckless at times that he is completely clueless. He didn't sell it, and even quarreled with me. Didn't he owe the bank 200 million yuan? I mean, take this opportunity to let the local bank enter the board of directors. Guns are a good thing, but you need to add insurance, Huan Yowei said solemnly. With Lu Feng's character, he won't agree. It's not a matter of whether he promises or not, it has been done, and he has to promise. If he doesn't, Huan Yowei said coldly. Don't you like him very much? He's a smart guy. Huan Yowei laughed and said, the most important thing in the world is smart people. Too many smart people lack opportunities. I won't let the people here take the risk. There are more than 20,000 employees in the Wipta factory, and they were suddenly laid off. They are looking for me. Compared to 20,000 people, a mere Lu Feng is insignificant. Yeah, he's been restless. Let's organize a tea party. Bring all the people in charge of the company, and some related material suppliers, etc., call them, have some food, and have a chat. Huan Yowei said casually, you can do it, it's fixed. Tomorrow night, tell those companies that the municipality was invited by the above notice, so don't come to see it yourself. Okay, I'll let you know. If Lu Feng knew Huan Yowei's choice at the moment, he would not be surprised at all. In everyone's eyes, GFN Electronics is a fish that has landed on the shore, gasping for breath, and is about to die. It was surrounded by people, all carrying pots, some with hot oil, some with chopped green onions, and some with mustard ready. For Huang Youwei, Lu Feng is a helper. When this helper can't help him, it's useless. If he doesn't even have this cruelty, can he sit in his current position? These people just didn't expect that Lu Feng, the fish, had prepared a dragon for them, not only to smash their pots, but also to pull these people into the water. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 523. The domestic market situation has been very serious, and some news continues to be reported abroad. Jiao Anfan has been paying attention to this matter. He looked at the newspaper with a gloomy smile on his face. When things came to this point, GFN Electronics was a dead end, and he always believed that the VCD industry had great prospects. I didn't expect that in such a short period of time, I would have the opportunity to rise again. I made a plan first, and after I got the investment and returned to China, the market was just in a state of waste. Me. Jiao Anfan, stand up again. Jiao Anfan's face was full of hope. For his previous failures, he always thought that he was unlucky. With his ability, he will make a new comeback, which is definitely a sweeping trend. Mr. Li, Mr. Zheng, Mr. Ho, and others have received invitation letters one after another. They will attend a tea party tomorrow night. The invitation said that they would sit together to talk about the past and the present, and exchange views on the future development trend of the industry. But we all know that this is the mediation policy of the municipal government, and GFN Electronics really can't stand it anymore. Mr. Zheng danced happily in his seat, singing in his mouth, "I'm a common man today, I'm so happy." Several executives saw him as happy as a child, with smiles on their faces. Everything was settled, everything was over. "Mr. Zheng, you are really tall," the executive flattered. "Mr. Zheng, there is a worry right now. What if Changhong doesn't lend us money?" another executive worried. "I have fat, but I'm still short of pot." Mr. Zheng cleared his throat and said, "You don't think I'll be counting on Li Quanliang alone? Everyone is a 1,000-year-old fox. What are you playing in Liaozai? After talking about it, it's not too much, and I don't want to buy all of them, I just need to control GFN Electronics. I'm just curious, why is Suzhou's municipal government taking the lead? Shouldn't Dongguan be worried about this? You don't understand, and I don't understand either. This is politics, and there may be many twists and turns in it. When you think something is crazy, you have thought of it all, and the leader insists on doing it. Then it means that there are a lot of you don't know the inside story, and this situation is the best solution," Mr. Zheng said with a smile. "We're still not fit to be officials. The officials are all talented, and the inferior ones go into business. Otherwise, how can I control you?" Mr. Zheng stood up, refreshed, and heaved a sigh of relief. "I guess this market will continue to be suppressed." In June, GFN Electronics' debt of 200 million yuan expired, which is the beginning of the collapse of the building. Book a ticket and go to Suzhou. Entrepreneurs from all over the country are galloping here. Lu Feng received the invitation letter, glanced at it, and said lightly that he knew. The output of the new factory has been reduced, and the production of Wipita has also declined. Compared with last year, it is considered to be a state of semi-shutdown. The workers have begun to waver, and many rumors have spread in the factory. Zhang Fengxia knew that this would not work, so she ordered the meeting to continue, asking the workers not to be idle, to clean the staff dormitory, to strengthen the supervision of working hours, to carry out learning at the same time, and to hold the first WIPTA skills competition. Ordinary workers are easy to manage, but without part of the piece rate, their income will definitely be discounted. Even if they leave, they can still be recruited. The problem is that the middle and lower management levels also began to fluctuate. Every day, newspapers reported that workers went to other factories, and they were still workers. They were not necessarily small supervisors after leaving this factory. After dinner, Lu Feng listened to Zhang Fengxia talking about things in the factory, and kept nodding. Feng Xiao sat on the side and pricked up his ears. This is all management experience. Recently, a lot of reporters have come in quietly to inquire and take pictures. I don't know what they want to do, and they have stepped up the security work. Zhang Fengxia put down her bowl and chopsticks and said, "Hurry up and go there." "How long?" Lu Feng asked suddenly. "How long has it been?" Feng Xiao wondered. "How long has the first batch of pirated VCDs been on the market?" Lu Feng added. Feng Xiao thought for a moment and said, "We released it on March 10th, and it will be fully listed on March 15th. It will be on the market for 2 or 3 days. I remember it appeared. The batch is relatively small. Today is March 30th, 2 weeks. Already. Wait 2 more days." Lu Feng finished eating. At present, the voltage in China is very unstable. A tungsten filament light bulb may burn out in a few days because of the unstable voltage. The adults in the family cherish electrical appliances. When it rains or thunders, all plugs must be unplugged to prevent electrical appliances from being burned. In fact, the motherboard of the pirated product was burned on the first day of the market, but it did not occur in a large area. According to Liukin's calculation, the temperature carried by the circuit lines is not high. If it runs continuously for more than 3 hours, the continuous in half a month, there is a 90% probability that it will burn. Those products are approaching a tipping point. Recently, people's hearts are quite impetuous. You should also make it clear to the people below that GFN Electronics' financial situation is very healthy, and the current state is only temporary. If anyone wants to leave, they can leave. Yes, I've never heard of a drill who wants to leave. The management of the middle and lower levels doesn't really matter as long as it is not lost in large numbers, Lu Feng instructed Zhang Fengxia directly. I know, I've said it in the past few days, mainly depends on production. This month, the wages of workers are basically halved, Zhang Fengxia said worriedly. When will the TV recover? This is not something to worry about. If sales continue to decline, we will lay off people and reduce expenses. TV sets are a long runway, and the domestic market is not good. We need to find a way to open up the overseas market, Lu Feng said while eating. We like this. There is insufficient domestic competition for products, and in some generally industrialized countries, they are scarce. It's hard to do overseas markets. Zhang Fengxia wanted to talk about the difficulties in overseas markets, but she opened her mouth and didn't say anything. I know, I don't mean to let you directly lay sales channels overseas. Don't think that I don't understand the overseas market. The country has no international influence. It is difficult to lay a sales channel in the overseas market. Those messy institutions, regulations, and the department can play you. If they find it, it will definitely be an existence that the 6 parents do not recognize. So what we have to do is, for overseas wholesale, first prop up the factory. Let's not talk about this, and deal with the current situation. The competition in the internal market is fierce, and if you want to survive, you need to find a new continent. This is a future road, Lu Feng said, picked up a piece of lava garlic and threw it into his mouth, chewing it crunchy. Master Zhao, this lava garlic marinade is good. Lu Feng turned his head and praised the kitchen. Mr. Lu, I'll pickle more, this is my specialty. Lu Feng said a good word, then ate another one, stood up and wiped his mouth, ready to go back to chat with Zhang Xiaoyan on the phone. Feng Xiao glanced at Zhang Fengxia quietly and said, Sister, Brother Feng seems to understand international trade. I should understand, I don't know either. Zhang Fengxia was stunned and reacted, no, how could he understand international trade? He was born with mud legs. Brother Feng didn't graduate from primary school. I recently found out that he knows a lot. I don't even know anything. He knows everything. By the way, he also knows the courses I took when I was in school. Feng Xiao said what he had been holding back for a long time. Zhang Fengxia frowned. She was also puzzled. Since GMA Foods, she has been with Lu Feng, and has never seen him study anything. Could it be that this guy secretly signed up for the cram school behind his back? But on another thought, why the cram school is so powerful? Sister Xia, do you think he might lie to us? In fact, he is a top student, otherwise he can't explain it. Feng Xiao was full of doubts. He is still very diligent, people always make progress, and besides, the circles he is in contact with are relatively high-end, and he is almost familiar with it. Zhang Fengxia can only explain this way. Although Feng Xiao felt that this reason was far-fetched, there was no good explanation. Zhang Fengxia's doubts about this matter were not for a day or two. She could feel that this was Lu Feng's biggest secret. Lu Feng was lying on the rattan chair, and Zhang Xiaoyan on the phone was teaching Duo to do his homework. Listen to your mother, don't make your mother angry, you know, Lu Feng said lightly. I'll make her mad sooner or later, Zhang Xiaoyan sighed and said, what's wrong with the company? I've been reading the newspapers too much recently. Even my manager is asking, is your husband's company dying? What does it have to do with her? These old ladies have such long tongues. Don't talk to her about GFN Electronics. Just be careful, Lu Feng comforted, I haven't seen any storms. What's the matter? You just won't settle for a day, you haven't had a safe day for 2 days, and I have lost your temper for the past 2 years. I couldn't sleep at night in the past few years. After all, I am a timid person and can't do great things. Son, you are born to do big things, even if the sky falls, you will stick to the pillow, Zhang Xiaoyan said with a bit of resentment. Courage is learned. You make the cosmetic factory bigger and stronger. Have you taken the medicine yet? Lu Feng asked. Drinking it, I feel like I have a lot of energy in the past 2 days. I called the old doctor and said that I had made up for it and asked me to run more. It's almost April, and there are still 2 months. The people who are looking forward to it are anxious. Zhang Xiaoyan's voice was full of hope. Hearing this, Lu Feng began to fear June, and coughed, teach your child to do homework, I'll lie down for a while, there will be a tea party tomorrow, rest early, don't think blindly, I'm a person, not livestock. Zhang Xiaoyan heard what he meant, laughed, and said, what are you afraid of? It's like I eat people. Go and rest, hang up. Hanging up the phone, Lu Feng took a deep breath. He had to go out in June to avoid his etch. Zhang Xiaoyan often ruined Lu Feng for the sake of his children. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 524. The next day, a low-key tea party was held as scheduled. At the Emgrand Hotel in the city, so many entrepreneurs gathered, the scene can be said to be very big, but the media did not reveal any news, enough to see that everyone wanted to privately speak quietly. If Huang Youwei settles this matter, he Jiali will definitely owe a big favor, even if he doesn't settle it, he also owes a favor. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Huang Youwei had arrived early. In the living room of the conference, some local material suppliers were present, and Liang Lijiao was also present. Hello Secretary Huang. Everyone greeted each other. Huang Youwei smiled and waved his hands, signaling everyone to take their seats. He sat down and asked, isn't the recent production affected? We are okay. Some time ago, there was only GFN Electronics, and the price was relatively low. Now it is better, the market is alive, and we have more choices. And the shipment volume is higher, and the monopoly behavior of GFN Electronics must be severely punished. That's right, I had to look at their purchasing faces before, and even wanted to meet Lu Feng. That would be difficult. Liang Lijiao couldn't help but said, now that the market is revitalized, if you don't buy it, others will buy it, and more jobs will be created. Our factory has recently hired hundreds of new workers. Whoever holds the bowl and who speaks for whom is the same principle. These suppliers do not want to go back to the previous period. GFN Electronics has the final say in the market. Such a crazy competitive market is the most beneficial to them. Liang Lijiao had to vent all the frustration he felt in Lu Feng's office before. Huang Youwei kept nodding. Such intense market confrontation will not damage the secondary market, but will prosper. Only one GFN Electronics has suffered damage. From a global perspective, this is a good thing. While everyone was chatting, people were already entering the venue one after another, and everyone greeted them. When Mr. Zhang saw Li Quanliang, he ran over excitedly and opened his arms in a big hug. "Mr. Li, you are my bosom friend." "Mr. Zhang, you're strong," Li Quanliang looked at him happily. The two were like long-lost brothers, and they had endless words to talk about. Everyone present was very enthusiastic. Some were competitors last year. At this moment, everyone has a common enemy, just like a big party. It's almost 7 o'clock. The sky was gloomy, and the street lights at the entrance of the hotel just turned on, emitting a dim yellow light. Lu Feng got out of the car and tidied up his suit. Feng Xiao came over and said worriedly, "Brother Feng, today's game is very unfavorable for you. Since you want to reconcile, you must make concessions. I don't think you should come." Zhang Fengxia nodded and said, "Indeed, if you don't come, Huang Youwei's face will not look good, so you still have to come." "Do you really think I'm counting on reconciliation?" Lu Feng sneered, looking so disdainful. He knows too much about this era and expects them to solve the problem of piracy. Savage growth. Only when the grass grows and thickens can it stand up to pruning. Before it can't stand pruning, the knife will not be used. Lu Feng understands this better than anyone else. "I'm here to vent my emotions today," Lu Feng said solemnly. "Vent your emotions," Feng Xiao was a little confused. Zhang Fengxia explained in a low voice, "I'm here to scold people." Lu Feng strode into the hotel lobby, went upstairs and handed out the invitation letter. Just as he was about to go in, Secretary Kui ran over and said, "Mr. Lu, wait a minute." Turning back, Lu Feng looked at him and wondered, "What's wrong?" "Secretary Huang wants to chat with you." "It's in the living room." Secretary Kui made a gesture of invitation and said, "This way, please." "You two go first," Lu Feng instructed Zhang Fengxia and the two, and followed Secretary Kui over. In the living room, Huang Youwei took a sip of tea, and when he saw Lu Feng pushed the door and walked in, he said calmly, "Sit down." Lu Feng sat on the opposite sofa, staring at Huang Youwei, not wanting to speak. "Why don't you speak?" Huang Youwei raised his head and asked. "What do you want me to say?" "I can't say anything other than complaining about grievances," Lu Feng said in a low voice. "You've got enough, why don't you know contentment? Think about it, how your life was 3 or 4 years ago compared to now. That's what I deserve. I earned it with my own hard work. It's not a gift from anyone. It's my business to be content." Lu Feng interrupted him. "Look at your character, you are so angry. I told you before that you can sell it to foreign capital, and you can realize it. You don't need to take risks. How can you not get wet shoes when you often stand by the river?" Huang Youwei took a sip of tea, sighed, and said, "There is no general victorious in business. So I spent 50 million to set up a company and exchanged dry shares for patent rights. I deserve it, so don't do domestic research and development. The lawsuit is on hold in the court. Just talking about those things that eat people and don't spit bones. Can you not be emotional?" Huang Youwei frowned. "I don't expect you to do anything either. You are a parental official. You think about the overall situation. In your eyes, there is no right or wrong. There are only left and right hands. The left hand accounts for a high proportion, and you lose the right hand, and vice versa. Lu Feng poured himself a glass of water and said, I also made it clear that I came here today to vent my emotions and curse people. Lu Feng, let me tell you this, the market is out of control, and the TV set will not be able to recover in the short term. At that time, the foreign capital was not sold. Now I can help you again, let the state capital enter the market, and relieve your debt pressure first. And then the municipal or local bank injects capital, and you are still the chairman, so that you will have more confidence in your future development. Huang Yawei said what was in his heart. How much share? Lu Feng looked at him with a smile. 49%. Of course, it can be discussed in detail. Lu Feng now holds more than 80% of GFN Electronics. Except for Mr. Feng, who holds 5%, the rest are employee incentive shares. If the shareholding reaches more than 40%, Lu Feng may lose the power to manage the company at any time in the vote of the board of directors. He does not want to make Lu Feng more confident in the future. Instead, they want to check and balance Lu Feng. As long as GFN Electronics does not develop radically, it will develop into a very large domestic electronics company. Judging from the current market situation, it is absolutely no problem to become a first-tier enterprise. Mr. Huang, if one day I can't control GFN Electronics, I will sell all the shares and start another company with the money. If it annoys me, I will start another electronics company and kill GFN Electronics by hand. Do you think I have this ability? Lu Feng looked at him with a half-smile. Huang Yawei sighed and said, don't be hostile, we are related, right? I want to help you. The relationship between the two of us, if I affect your career, you will kill me with your own hands, am I right? Lu Feng drank the tea in the water cup and said, I don't want to talk in secret, to be honest, I have a way out, thank you for your help. Then I won't say more, it's also for your own good. We both came out of the small city at the beginning, and you became a big boss and alienated. Huang Yawei stood up and prepared to go out. Lu Feng laughed ironically, and couldn't help but said, I'm useless to you, since I wanted to run out and didn't accept foreign investment, you know that I won't be of much help to you in the future, I can understand, or thank you. You're welcome. Huang Yawei opened the door and walked out, saying, everyone is here, let's enter. Lu Feng stood up and walked outside. There were more than 100 people at the scene. In addition to the heads of major companies, there were also many material suppliers and suppliers, all of whom were in the same industry chain. As Huang Yawei entered the venue, all eyes were focused on him, and then they stared at Lu Feng behind him, all kinds of eyes, some mocking, some disdainful, some mocking. Many people looked at Lu Feng and thought in their hearts, it was difficult to see you at that time, and it took so long to get to where you are today. I begged you at that time, but now it's your turn to beg me, maybe because I once showed the most humble smile in front of Lu Feng, and now I want to get it back 100-fold. Mr. Lu, we meet again. Liang Lijiao opened his mouth to Lu Feng with a glass of champagne in his hand. He stood there with light eyes, squinting slightly, showing contempt, and said with a smile, you are me idol. What are you laughing at? Are you so funny? Lu Feng stared at him with a grim expression and asked, do you know that you look ugly? It's even uglier when you smile. Liang Lijiao didn't expect Lu Feng to attack him directly, his eyes widened and he said, Lu Feng, I'm older than you, at least you. 2 more years to live. I'm your idol, what are you doing behind my back? In my name, you say that you are my supplier and sell high-priced motherboards to other companies. This is what you did. What's wrong? Lu Feng asked. What are you talking about? I didn't do it, I'm serious business. Mr. Liang was a little flustered. Look at him in a mirror. How can someone like you run a serious business? Laugh at him. Lu Feng looked at him and shouted, ugly people are more at fault. Feng Xiao was dumbfounded with a small plate in his hand, and he forgot to put something in his mouth. Zhang Fengxia gave him a hand and whispered, "Stand back, don't accidentally hurt you, you should eat and drink, and who's going to sleep after eating and drinking?" Some people in the crowd were dissatisfied and whispered, "If you are sick, you will scold President Liang when you come up. Are you provoking him to mess with him? Brother, don't be impulsive, stand back, my brother has experienced the state of him, don't scold him, you can't scold him." Someone was pulling him next to him. The brother was clearly not convinced. Mr. Zhang coughed and took a step back silently with Li Quanliang and Mr. Ho, who had attended the first electronic conference. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 525. A man in his 30s walked out, someone was pulling him behind him, he threw his hand away, and said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Lu, everyone came all the way to participate in this tea party, or else who do you think will come to the municipal event? Do you really think you have such appeal in the business world? Mr. Liang regards you as an idol, and you don't respect a man of his age at all, and you even put a hat on people's heads." Lu Feng turned his face and glanced at the man, his face was very lively, he smiled and asked, "Who are you?" "Chairman of Wanli Materials Co., Limited, Yang Dong," the other party said with a sullen face, "mainly for resin, copper wire and polymer materials." "Oh," Lu Feng made a long final note and said as if he understood, "A raccoon dog on a hill, you are also in the VCD related industry, right? Can you manage it?" Yang Dong pointed at Lu Feng, and said sternly, "You should apologize to Mr. Liang, and feel ashamed for your rudeness and unreasonableness just now." As soon as these words came out, Mr. Zheng and Li Quanliang felt ashamed. Good chance, when did Lu Feng feel ashamed? "How can I manage it? You are a thief, how can you be so righteous?" Lu Feng took a step forward and asked, "I am rude and unreasonable. You still spit out blood." "How could I become a thief?" Yang Dong said in disbelief. "As you said, you are the raw material for motherboards, right? Today's people are all related to the VCD industry. That is to say, you are the initial supplier of pirated VCDs. GFN Electronics owns all the rights to VCDs. Excuse me. Who did you sell to?" "I didn't receive your goods anyway." Lu Feng stared at him and questioned each word. Yang Dong froze on the spot, hurriedly waved his hands in a panic and said, "I'm not making VCDs, I'm making raw materials. How do I know what I did after making the motherboard?" "Then what are you doing standing here?" Lu Feng asked him, "You have nothing to do with the VCD industry, how did you get invited? You humming call me unreasonable?" Lu Feng spat at Yang Dong, so frightened that the other party stepped back several steps in a row. He never dreamed that the boss of such a big company of GFN Electronics would spit others' saliva. "You. What am I? You rely on Laozi's patents and marketing to make money, and you come out and accuse me, are you a person? Damn, eat the insides and the outsides, and make money with my power. And the goddamn stand up and scold me, where did you get the courage?" Yang Dong couldn't bear the scolding, and hurriedly stepped back. He really made a fortune recently with the power of VCD. Many things are well known to everyone, but Lu Feng didn't expect to say it so straightforwardly. Lu Feng glanced at the scene, and said solemnly, "There is one who is present, and you know how many shameless things you have done. Don't think that if you open a leather bag company and put the factory down there, no one will know. Now, say I'm shameless, can you guys lift up your pants first?" Seeing that Lu Feng's scolding was almost done, Huang Yowei stood up, cleared his throat, and said, "Today, I gathered everyone from all over the world to solve the problem. I don't have to express my emotions. The problem must be solved. Can you listen to me?" Huang Yowei looked at Lu Feng, Lu Feng turned his head and walked towards the table next to the champagne. Now the VCD market is chaotic, piracy is rampant, and the market has too much inventory, which has led to stagflation. The protection of patent rights is basically useless, which has seriously damaged the interests of GFN Electronics. GFN Electronics has also passed the court to more than 20 companies. Take it to court. The Market Supervision Department and relevant departments have issued guidance and do not want to see chaos continue. If the court decides to make some companies go bankrupt, this is not the result we want to see. We must seek a win-win outcome and form healthy competition. This is also a happy result. Huang Yowei said some innocuous words, and made it clear that he hoped that they would talk to Lu Feng. If it doesn't work, he will give GFN Electronics some compensation. And then in the market is to show their skills. When everyone hears this, who is willing to give it, they can't wait for GFN Electronics to close down tomorrow, and no one admits that they are pirating, and everyone is talking about all kinds of things. Feng Xiao saw Lu Feng leaning against the table to eat. He stepped forward and said, "Brother Feng, you were so good just now. If I had your mouth, I would definitely be good. I'm even kicking them when I'm in a hurry. You've seen it? Today's matter is an unsolvable solution," Lu Feng said while eating. Zhang Fengxia nodded, thinking that what Lu Feng said was very right. This matter can't be solved, but if the municipal government does not solve it, Lu Feng is absolutely unhappy, so he can only pretend. A group of people chatted about their own difficulties. Some company executives went out to open a factory behind their backs, and they opened him when they went back. It has nothing to do with their own company. Mr. Zheng even pulled his wife out, saying that the factory had nothing to do with him and was made by his wife. He had already scolded his wife and made a clear line with such a vicious and shameless woman. Mr. Zheng is really high. Not only did he draw a clear line with the pirate factory, but he also threw his wife out, and he turned his head to find a little wife. Lu Feng was full and drank another glass of wine. Mr. Zheng came over and said to Lu Feng, "Brother, you should believe me, how could I do such a thing? I was stunned when I received the notice yesterday. I believe you, it's what his mother did when he gave birth to a son who didn't criticize him. It has nothing to do with you." "Do you have a son?" Lu Feng asked. "Have." "That's good." Lu Feng patted him on the shoulder and walked forward. "Brother, you asked this question," Mr. Zheng said helplessly. "I will divorce my wife when I go back, or I won't be able to wash myself if I jump into the Yellow River." Lu Feng stood at the front, looked at Huang Yowei and said, "Can I say a few more words?" "Let's talk." Huang Yowei sat down. "That's all for today." He tried his best, but there was no result anyway. It's better to let Lu Feng scold him and vent some emotions. Let me briefly say that patent protection must be taken seriously, otherwise no one will buy a patent. If you pirate me today, someone will pirate you tomorrow. What kind of ethos has formed now? A company rushes up, the court manages, a group of companies rush up, no one dares to care. What's the difference between this and robbery? The law does not blame the public. You are looting, robbers, and shameless. The courts dare not act, and local protectionism is prevalent. We have successively brought more than 20 companies to the court and nearly half of them have applied for jurisdiction. What are you doing? Are you going to sue me tomorrow, and then arrest me across provinces? Some things must be changed. If they don't change, future development will be hindered. Today, GFN Electronics has been dealt with. What about tomorrow? Don't let market rules become forest survival rules. At the end of the day, everyone is in danger. The incident of GFN Electronics, some people should reflect on it, and should draw lessons from it. The sledgehammer of punishment is raised high and gently dropped. Huang Yowei sat there, his face ashen, and he didn't say a word. Most of the people present looked relaxed. Lu Feng said these words, indicating that he was helpless. To be honest, I have nothing but desperation right now. What can I do with you? Except waiting for bankruptcy and then bankruptcy and reorganization, you rush in like picking up rubbish. Lu Feng smiled bitterly and said, I'm tired of scolding, I'm too thick-skinned, I can't scold, but I have one last thing, that is, everyone present needs to sign a waiver agreement, regardless of your factory, foundry, or shell. Whether the company has produced pirated GFN electronic Golden Leopard VCDs, they have signed a disclaimer agreement, and I will withdraw the lawsuit after signing. Everyone at the scene was shocked, especially those who knew Lu Feng. Can he just let it go? Mr. Zheng was stunned for a moment, and said in a low voice, this is not quite right. What's wrong? Huang Youwei doesn't help him anymore, what ability does he have? After all, he is a young man, passing by like a meteor, no one will remember except for the shining moment. Li Kuanliang glanced at Mr. Zheng, with a sneer, he said, we are the eternal. Mr. Zheng nodded secretly. Lu Feng briefly explained the content of the terms and conditions. It is very simple. No matter whether the Golden Leopard VCD has closed down, there is a problem with the product in the future, or other problems, it is not allowed to claim against GFN Electronics, and it will not bear any legal responsibility and be exempted from all risks. Responsibility. This clause is very loose. If you don't sign it, doesn't it mean that your company is quietly pirating? The contract was printed very quickly, and more than 100 contracts were placed in front of everyone. The signing was soon completed. Lu Feng looked at the pile of contracts on the table, took a deep breath, and a smile appeared on his face. That's it? It's a solution. There is no way. I can't fight it. I admit it. Everyone eats and drinks well. I'll go first. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he waved to Zhang Fengxia and Feng Xiao, asked them to take the contract away, turned around and strode towards the door. As Lu Feng walked out of the door, there was a burst of laughter at the scene. Mr. Liang sat there with his legs crossed, and the business world is like this. Today you are on the top, and tomorrow you will fade out of the circle, leaving everyone alone. After leaving the hotel, Lu Feng asked them to put the contract on the back seat. He sat in the co-pilot, Feng Xiao got in the driver's seat, and while wearing his seat belt, he asked, Brother Feng, why did you write this disclaimer clause? Woolen cloth. I'm afraid they will sue me in a few days, Lu Feng said casually, go back. They pirated, can they still sue us? Is this shameless? Feng Xiao said in surprise. In that room, who do you think is the most embarrassing? Lu Feng leaned on the seat and said, let's drive. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 526. After Lu Feng left, the atmosphere in the room was obviously much better. Everyone was changing cups, at least with smiles on their faces. Li Kuanliang called Mr. Zheng, Mr. Ho of TCL, and some medium-sized enterprises together. He understood that the market is chaotic now, and if he wants to make a profit and eat the cake of VCD, there is only one way to go, crowding out others. These people have temporarily reached an alliance to advance and retreat together. Lu Feng is no longer enough to prove it, and the rest is to fight against other pirates. At the same time, Li Kuanliang also signed an agreement with President Zheng in private. He promised that in the next few months, if GFN Electronics went bankrupt and reorganized, he would mortgage the factories, patent rights, sales channels, brand names, etc. of the two companies, Desheng and Degan, in exchange for Li Kuanliang's exemption of not less than 300 million yuan. Interest loan, up to 500 million. There are not many state-owned enterprises in the country that can promise to spend so much money at one time. Changhong is one of them. Since it overwhelmed the panda in the TV market in the early 1990s, it has been profitable every year. After Mr. Zheng got this agreement, he was overwhelmed with excitement. His life was about to take off, and swallowing an elephant was no longer a dream, and Li Quanliang was very happy to see him. The mess of GFN Electronics is something that Lu Feng can clean up. He bet that Mr. Zheng will take over for 2 years, or even not be able to repay the money within 1 year. Mr. Zheng wants GFN Electronics, and Li Quanliang wants them all. After the tea party was over, Huang Youwei also hurriedly found the local financial director and the local bank director, and held a plan meeting to prevent GFN Electronics from collapsing. A lot of times, when businessmen are beautiful, they are really beautiful. They ride in luxury cars and smile everywhere. Big entrepreneurs go to some small places, and local leaders have to accompany them. In the eyes of ordinary people, they are definitely big figures. But it is also extremely sad to be desolate. If you compare GFN Electronics to a person, this person is not dead yet. A group of brothers and friends are standing in the yard and blowing suana. Go well, but my heart is staring at this home. The next day, newspaper headlines in many places published calls for patent protection, improving the patent law, and regulating the market competition mechanism, but it was just talk. The sales plummeted by nearly 90%. Before, the goods were shipped one by one to all parts of the country. The high-speed and waterways were all open, and the world was in full swing. The red line of the warehouse's inventory has already arrived in the world in just a few days. The new factory area was completely shut down. The workers came to clean up and listen to the lectures. Many people were absent-minded. Some people had already inquired about other factories outside, ready to run away with buckets. The building is in danger, the gentleman does not stand under the fence. There are too few people who can tide over the difficulties with the company. Although they have experienced many crises before, they are not so serious, and they have not stopped production. Coupled with the daily newspaper reports, there are rumors in private that it is about to be acquired by state-owned assets, and some people say that GFN Electronics was originally based on the Panda branch, and now it will be taken back. Among them, the news of being nationalized has spread the most, and some newspapers have begun to say that Lu Feng was sitting in the office reading the newspaper, wondering if this was Huang Youwei trying to test the public. Zhang Fengxia knocked on the door, walked in with a tired face, sat across from it and sighed, "This factory is fine, Wipta is still producing, as well as tape players, radios, and other products. With the new factory manager, people are panicking and cannot be comforted. Don't be afraid, you know what is the most lacking in China." Lu Feng covered his face with a newspaper in his hand. "What?" "Human, don't be afraid if it disappears. With high wages, it's all gone. If I give you a week, you won't be able to recruit 10 or 20,000 people." Lu Feng put down the newspaper and said with interest on his face, "Do you still remember Zhuang Yuntian?" "Do not." "That fool who was tricked by you." Zhang Fengxia wondered, "What's wrong?" "He still holds the convertible bonds of GFN Electronics." "Didn't he always hope to be nationalized?" Lu Feng smiled, put the newspaper on the table, and said, "I'll call him and make fun of him." Zhang Fengxia was very speechless. If she had a good mentality, Ten herself didn't have such a good mentality as him, and she still wanted to tease others at such a time. Lu Feng found out Zhuang Yuntian's phone number and called. "Hey. Mr. Zhuang, I'm Lu Feng, the one from GFN Electronics." Lu Feng leaned on the chair with a smile on his face, teasing, "I tell you, what we two said at the beginning is about to come true." Zhuang Yuntian on the other end of the phone rolled his eyes. Some time ago, he told the headquarters that investing in Lu Feng was really the right investment. Before his second round of financing, he would turn bonds into equity. As long as Lu Feng raises money, they will make money immediately. At that time, he was also praised by the boss. After a few days, he made a big turn, let him continue to hold bonds, and if he went bankrupt, he would get the money back. "Mr. Lu, investing in you is the worst thing I've ever done in my life, understand? The worst thing, no one. Zhuang Yuntian gritted his teeth and said, your investors are all lunatics, Feng Sir, at such an old age, can't you let him live a few more years? What is this called? It was said at the time that GFN Electronics was nationalized, and your money was doubled. Now is not the opportunity, Lu Feng asked with a smile, such a good opportunity, buy some more, and don't buy it again. I can't buy it, maybe I will sell it in a few months. You, liar, Zhuang Yuntian cursed angrily and hung up the phone. Lu Feng leaned back on the chair and laughed, as if he was amusing a child, and said to Zhang Fengxia, he called me a liar. People of this age are so indistinguishable. What should I do next? Give me some reassurance. Zhang Fengxia sighed, the market is not easy. Mr. Zhu stopped work and rested at home, saying that he didn't want to read the report, and the only person who was busy was Wei Yandan. It's good for her to be busy, and she should be busy too. The direction of the media is on the rise, so don't worry about it, take advantage of these 2 days to rest, it's just these 2 days, Lu Feng said casually. Seeing that he was confident, Zhang Fengxia didn't worry so much anymore. She knew that she seemed to have done something wrong, but she really didn't know what was going on. Only he, Lu Cheng and Feng Xiao knew about the whole company, and it was considered top secret. Tell me, what is it? Zhang Fengxia moved her stool and rubbed forward, her big eyes full of curiosity. Don't tell me, I'll find out in a few days. Lu Feng picked up another newspaper and flipped through it, and said, aren't you screaming tired all the time, go to sleep. I'll come back with some melon seeds, tell me. Zhang Fengxia stood up, like a child, and went to the canteen in the factory area excitedly. After a while, she came in with a bag of melon seeds and a lot of snacks. The two were nibbling on melon seeds and chatting nonsense. Lu Feng also recounted the matter. Zhang Fengxia couldn't help but said, you are too bad. How do you talk? Lu Feng frowned. My fault, you are extremely smart, you are very smart, Zhang Fengxia praised. In the terminal market, at the entrance of an electrical appliance city, 7 or 8 people surrounded a counter with a burnt-out VCD on the counter. The whole family was dispatched. It broke after only a few days of use. What quality do you have? You must replace it with a new one. The woman's voice was particularly sharp, not to mention the people outside the mall heard it. It's expensive, and there's something wrong with the quality. We didn't move anything, and it started smoking. The old lady shed tears angrily. Let me tell you, don't give me a refund or exchange, don't do business anymore, damn it, it's only been a month for something you bought for thousands of dollars, are you stealing the money? The man slapped the counter angrily. The boss standing at the counter looked indifferent, with a cigarette in his mouth, sitting on a chair with Erlang's legs crossed, and said, you guys are burning with unstable voltage, so come to me. I'll change it for you. Why should I return it? I ruined myself, find me. Do you give it a try? Just try it, what's up? Go to whomever you like, let me tell you, find out on this floor, who the hell will exchange this thing for you, buy it back, don't cherish it, and find fault with me? Now, did you buy it from me? The boss scolded sternly. You opened the ticket, the woman slapped the ticket on the table. I haven't seen you before, the tickets are fake, whoever you want to go to, don't FK around my counter, get away, you know, the boss pointed at the family and scolded. When I came to buy it, this young man was full of smiles and made all kinds of guarantees. He opened his mouth and closed his mouth, but now he has 2 faces. It's a fool, it's dead, the old man said, sitting on the ground, clapping his hands on the ground and howling, come and see, you are killed by God, thousands of things bought, look at it, broke in 2 days, so I bought it from him. While shouting, the old lady stretched out her hand to pull her grandson and asked him to lie down. In this era, All kinds of counters sell goods, it is really a pit, and all kinds of counterfeit things are uneven, so you must be optimistic, and when you look back, people don't recognize them at all, and you can't find any department. Make trouble is the only way. Sitting on the ground, crying and howling, scolding the ancestors of the 18th generation, the reason why many elderly people do this is because in their hearts, this method can really solve the problem, and in many cases, it is the only way to solve the problem. For the VCDs produced in the previous batches, the circuit lines have been used to the limit. In one room, the man closed the curtains during the day, licked his dry lips, then closed the door and took out a card from the bottom of the closet. CD comes. He took a deep breath, unable to restrain his excitement, plugged in the VCD, put the CD in, and waited for a while, and the picture that required mosaic appeared. At the most critical moment, with a snort, the VCD smoked and the TV was dark. What? Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 527. More and more machines began to be unable to carry the current, and they were scrapped after a puff of smoke, and some short circuits even burned TVs, light bulbs, and other electrical appliances. The older generation has suffered a lot of this kind of loss. When they go to bed at night, they have to pull out all kinds of latches. In front of the sales counters, people are constantly making trouble with VCDs, and when there are more people, the momentum will rise, blocking doors, pulling banners, and fighting, everywhere. It is impossible to return or exchange. Terminal dealers can't bear this loss. If it is one or two, they can be replaced or returned if they are too noisy. Such a large-scale outbreak is a consequence they cannot bear. Many people closed their doors and contacted the factory as soon as possible, asking them to provide a solution. If these people make trouble and cannot survive, they will go to the factory to make trouble. Everyone has no choice but to live. Compared with other counters, the counter of GFN Electronics is like watching a show. One came in a day. I took out the receipt and looked at it. It was not the Golden Leopard. I made a mistake. The reporter heard the news and began to interview and report. The thunder that Lu Feng planted was completely detonated today. Mr. Zheng's office was pushed open by the head of the marketing department and rushed in, and the whole person seemed very flustered. Mr. Zheng recently bought an ancient wooden coffee table, what is it called, Jace Han Liashui, and it cost a little 100,000 yuan. It is more than 3 meters long. The pictures of ladies are engraved on the ancient wood. As soon as the hot water is flushed, it will be revealed, and the spring will come out. Once the hot water fades, it will not be seen again. Washing tea, and dividing tea. In this process, Mr. Zheng's favorite is to wash tea. He can keep pouring hot water on it. The office door was suddenly pushed open. Mr. Zheng was startled, put down the teapot in his hand, and said coldly, "I don't know how to knock on the door." "What's wrong?" "Mr. Zheng, something happened." The marketing manager panicked. "What can happen? What?" "Someone is fighting in the factory." "Don't tell me about this trivial matter." Mr. Zheng's face was full of displeasure, and he was still thinking about the number of women he saw just now. "Already? Forgot, you have to look at it from the first one, and you have to have a hot pot of hot water. Not a fight. There is a problem with the product." The marketing manager took a deep breath and said, "The dealers have responded that the product has problems. If there is a problem, there will be a problem. With so much production, is it not allowed to have a few defective products? Just tell him to replace it." Mr. Zheng waved his hand indifferently and said, "Go out." It's not one piece or two, all dealers in 6 provinces reported it. A few days ago, it appeared in a small area. Today, a large area of the motherboard was burned down. Many counters were unable to sell, and they were surrounded by people. Several counters were smashed, and the boss was sent to the hospital. The marketing manager panicked. They simply counted, and 18% of the products have this kind of situation, and there is a problem with the circuit design. How much? Mr. Zheng was shocked. Preliminary statistics, 18%, many of them are suddenly burned after a month of use, like the circuit has no durability. Let the R/U0026D department hold a meeting to find a problem product and come back. Hurry up, Mr. Zheng was completely panicked. If the defective product rate is less than 10%, the market can actually accept it, and the company doesn't need to worry about it. 10. It's not about the money, it's a humming jail time. How can Mr. Zheng not panic? The same situation is being staged in major companies. Li Quanliang has already stood in the research and development room, and disassembled 2 burnt VCDs on the spot. At the same time, he disassembled the qualified products produced by our factory for comparison, and conducted short-term tests on power on, operation, and voltage strength. The problem is very simple. It is the problem of the 3 lines. Many chief engineers can see at a glance that these 3 lines may not be able to withstand long-term use. But at that time, Lu Feng was under too much pressure. The single-day sales exceeded 100 million yuan, which made everyone jealous, not to mention the first batch of products that Lu Feng sold. He has been tested, and Mr. Zheng has seen the drawings, so he is just a brainless letter. The problem with these 3 lines is that the strength of the inner copper wire is no problem, and the tin covered on the outside is too little to withstand the heat generated by the voltage, because these 3 lines are all concentrated in the circuit. Once burned, the lines next to it will also be affected. Can't weld, the chief engineer sighed. We all produce this way, and this design is intentional. Go buy the current Golden Leopard and come back and compare it. Li Quanliang never dreamed that he would be tricked by Lu Feng. Sue him. The several major companies that were previously associated with each other have their own team of engineers, and they know where the problem is. Those small and medium-sized manufacturers who bought the motherboard drawings have no idea what happened. The phone kept on calling, and I bought the Golden Leopard product and took it apart. My dear, these 3 lines are so thick. It must be reported, this matter must be reported, it is not our problem. Li Quanliang realized the seriousness of the problem, and he must push the responsibility for this matter. Otherwise, these major manufacturers have jointly exported millions of substandard VCDs to the market, and the public has suffered too much loss. If I touch you, I will really hum you. Li Quanliang thought about it for a while, and took the initiative to call the Supervision Bureau, saying that he had been deceived, but he did not say that he was deceived by Lu Feng. Once he said it, the first thing to investigate was the issue of piracy. He said that he was deceived by Mr. Zheng. Mr. Zheng was not stupid. He immediately reported that he had been deceived by Li Quanliang, and Mr. Ho also called and said that he had been deceived by Mr. Zheng and Mr. Li. A large-scale mutual identification scene just started. With such a large number of defective products entering the market, the regulatory authorities are also afraid, and hurriedly start an inventory. At the same time, they restrict the managers of major companies, prohibit them from going abroad, and are ready to be investigated at any time. After they communicated between provinces and cities, they found that except for the Golden Leopard, all the others had problems, and they opened the seizure overnight. We are now located in the largest warehouse of Quanbao VCD in the city. We will conduct random inspections on the products here. The result is that all of them are unqualified. Stop filming, a staff member walked over and said, it will not be reported to the public for the time being, especially about all unqualified cases. You can briefly report it, and wait for the follow-up notice, you know. Mr. Zheng sat in the office and looked at the mountain and flowing water in front of him. He was completely dumbfounded. A few hours ago, he was still thinking about GFN Electronics bankruptcy, and he settled in by himself, successfully becoming a first-line enterprise in the electronics industry. In just a few hours, his imagination was smashed to smithereens. Hum. Mr. Zhang kicked down the high mountains and flowing water with one foot and started to smash things frantically. There is nothing more terrifying than destroying a middle-aged man's dream. Teenagers are not afraid of losing, middle-aged people only need to lose once and everything will be over. Xiao Anfan has been looking for a lot of Wall Street investment bosses in the past few days. When the other party heard that he was going to go back to VCD, they all expressed that they wanted to invest, give him tens of millions of dollars, bring the advanced marketing team here, and go back to start the sweep potential. Xiao Anfan is also very ambitious. Now he is waiting for a good time. He wants to kill him. He picks up the phone and calls Mr. Zhang to ask how things are going now. 2 days ago, I heard that GFN Electronics was going to collapse. It was almost 2 days ago. As long as GFN Electronics was unable to recover, he immediately went back and slapped Lu Feng in the face like the autumn wind swept the leaves away. Stand up. Who? Mr. Zhang shouted angrily when he answered the phone. Mr. Zhang, why are you so angry? Anfan, I have talked about several investment companies here, and they are all interested. After a preliminary chat, the most arrogant one can already give out $30 million. Xiao Anfan said, extremely happy. He asked, is GFN Electronics obsolete? I was deceived, and I was deceived so miserably. Mr. Zhang, a big man, started to cry. He was crying and talking about the process. Xiao Anfan's face changed. He didn't expect that in just a few days, things had reversed in 2 levels. Lu Feng was hiding too deep. He decides. Not going back. This matter is too big for the city to make a decision, so they reported to the province, and the provinces decided overnight to seal up all defective products, rectify these enterprises, and take the opportunity to regulate the market. After 9 o'clock in the evening, the phone on Lu Feng's desk rang, and he picked up the phone and said, who is it? The city is now conducting random inspections on all VCD products, and sampling inspections are now carried out. The people from the Supervision Bureau are on their way there, and they will also inspect the new factory area, Huang Yowei instructed. I don't produce VCDs here, what's the matter? Why did you suddenly check? Lu Feng asked knowingly. Why do you say that you are a person who likes to be frightened when you do things? I have taken good care of you, I have given you everything I promised you, and I have not delayed your policy at all. You speak with your conscience. That's because I'm your only one, Lu Feng said solemnly, because you are counting on me. If one day you can sell me for a better future, you won't wait even a second. Aren't you, too? It's meaningless for us to say this, so I'll just ask for one, steady. Can it be done? Huang Yowei asked. If I can't do it, do I have to find out something tonight? Lu Feng asked rhetorically. No, you said it all, you are my only one, you are now a gem set in my hat, I am wearing you, shining. It's my honor, and I'm honored. Check, even if you check, I ordered someone to open the warehouse. I did the right thing, did a good job, and fully cooperated, Lu Feng said calmly. I'll be there in a while. Huang Yowei hung up the phone. Huang Yowei sat there thinking, those companies that produce substandard products, as long as there is one here, he will be in trouble. Affecting your career, luck in misfortune. Huang Yowei stood up, put on his coat and walked out. All substandard products were seized, and it was unknown whether they would be returned to the furnace for rectification or completely destroyed. That night, an army of pirates sprang up. Tonight, the pirate army. Completely annihilated. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 528. Huan Yuwei came with people. More than a dozen people inspected the warehouse, and then took away more than a dozen products for random inspection. Outside the warehouse, Huan Yuwei stood there smoking a cigarette. The headlights outside the factory illuminated this picture as if normal daytime. I have absolutely no problem with the quality. GFN Electronics has a low price and the quality is absolutely guaranteed. Lu Feng stood there and watched them load more than a dozen products with seals into the car, and said, "This is the most basic of being a human being. Conscience. Unexpectedly, you have become the most conscientious person." Huan Yuwei laughed when he saw Lu Feng, feeling that this was a bit ironic and absurd. "I have a very conscience. When I make products and face consumers, I am the most conscientious entrepreneur. When I make food, I have no shortage of jins or two, I use shoddy products, and when I make electronics, I put quality first, and I was the first company to propose 3 guarantees," Lu Feng said with a serious face. Huan Yuwei thought about it for a while. Indeed, when dealing with competitors, Lu Feng can say that he has everything. When dealing with consumers, he has never done anything out of the ordinary in terms of products. The random inspection was carried out quickly. After loading the things into the car, the product serial number was registered and Lu Feng signed it. "We will test the product, and after passing the test, we will send the product back," said a deputy director. Lu Feng signed it, smiled, and said to Huan Yuwei, "You don't need to be so polite. It's just a few TVs, radios, and tape players. You don't need to send them back. This is the rule," Huan Yuwei said to the crowd. "Hurry up and check, and get the results soon." After everyone left, Huan Yuwei lit a cigarette and looked at Lu Feng with a complicated look. After looking at Lu Feng for a while, he reached out and patted Lu Feng's shoulder, and said, "Work hard, don't be too rash all day long, do you think? The desired result has been obtained, and the VCD market will continue to be in its previous state for some time to come." "Thank you for your encouragement, I will hurry up this time," Lu Feng replied. "Then I'll go back first. By the way, since the funds are not so tight, the bank's 200 million yuan will be paid back. The debt is too high and is not conducive to the company's development." Huan Yuwei turned his head and said, "That's right, the 200 million was not interest-free before, it can be changed to interest-bearing. I'll just repay the interest every month. If I can borrow more, I would like to borrow more." Lu Feng proposed himself solution. "This year's investment promotion is a very heavy task. The pressure on the local banks is very high. If you have money, you can pay it back." Huan Yuwei frowned. "Mr. Huang, that's right, debt development is the keynote of the future. No, money is not scary. I'll give you a trick. You mortgage the equity of the local bank to the 4 major state-owned banks, and you can exchange a lot of money. It is really not good, and you will pawn the GDP of next year." Lu Feng said very seriously. "Are you damaged?" Huan Yuwei muttered and got in the car and told the driver to leave. Zhang Fengxia stood aside, glanced at Lu Feng, and whispered, "You really dare to make a move? The current leaders are not so courageous. In the future, there will be more of this kind of thing. As long as they are given money, they will sell everything. Now no one dares to do it. In a few years, some cities will do this, and they will benefit from it. Cities will follow suit. The simplest is that local banks have high debts, and the 4 major banks have very serious restrictions on local funds. Local banks are created with the local economy as the backing for the convenience of local leaders to mobilize funds. At Huan Yuwei's level, he can play with the local bank casually. The bank has to deal with the pressure of how much debt he has on the table. If he really has no money, he sells land, takes debt, and uses the credit of the municipal government to borrow from the private sector, plan the park, and attract enterprises to enter. Then a wave of pits. All kinds of means are dazzling. After more than 10 years, local banks have experienced a storm of debts, bad debts, dead debts, etc., adding up to tens of trillions of dollars in the whole country, which is about to catch up with the country's annual GDP. Such a large-scale rotten debt is due to the local eagerness for quick success and instant profits, frantically squeezing banks, carrying out advanced development, or blindly investing, building a bunch of useless parks and scenic spots, and all kinds of wonderful buildings are born from these things. The country is also afraid of such a large-scale debt. Generally speaking, when the non-performing asset ratio of a bank reaches 5%, it is on the verge of bankruptcy, and if it exceeds 10%, it is already insolvent. At that time, the non-performing asset ratio of local banks counted across the country exceeded 40%. From a global perspective, this is a great spectacle in the banking industry. The state does not dare to move, so it can only carry out the stripping of non-performing assets, and set up a company to take over these bad debts and bad debts, so that the bank can operate again. This is also what many elderly people say, the source of borrowing money from the bank in the early years without having to pay it back. I'm just making a move, they really dare to do it. Lu Feng glanced at the time, it was past 9 o'clock in the evening, and after such a beautiful battle, the rest was to enjoy the fruits of victory. Piracy will not go extinct, it will only make a comeback, but this wave has defeated the first group of people who have ideas, money in their hands, and put them into practice. Lu Feng estimates that whenever the market becomes hot again, more people will rush in, and the interval in between may be 2 to 3 months. During this period, the market share of the golden leopard will be as high as more than 90%, which is enough, and this period is the best time to establish a brand image. The quality of piracy is thundering, which is a very good publicity. It will be spread in the public word of mouth for a long time. Only when the brand is established can the future market share be maintained. Go back to rest early, there will be a meeting tomorrow, Lu Feng said and walked towards the office. Zhang Fengxia breathed a sigh of relief and moved her arms. She knew in her heart that she was going to be busy again. She looked back at Feng Xiao and said, "Go back to sleep, his apprentice." Feng Xiao returned to his room, comprehensively recalled the VCD game, wrote the timeline in the notebook, what Lu Feng did, faced different people, and used different psychological factors to achieve his goals. After listing one line at a time, he was completely shocked. Starting from fooling Mr. Zhang, he predicted the market's reaction. He knew the situation of the domestic market better than anyone else. He also knew exactly which direction his opponent would start from, just like an old hunter taking the step by step. Such a terrifying overall control ability made him feel incredible. I really can't learn it, Feng Xiao sighed. He now understands that what Lu Feng said, there are some things in the textbook that can never be learned. What Feng Xiao learned in textbooks is at most how to play chess, but in the business world, everyone is a master at chess, and the most basic thing is to take one step and watch 3 moves. With the unqualified sampling inspection, a large number of products with quality problems were sealed up, and the factories were sealed up. For such a big thing, someone has to go out to fight. The factory under Mr. Zheng pushed the factory manager out and was detained by the police. It is estimated that he will be sentenced to the crime of producing and selling counterfeit goods and a fine. The sentence will not be long. Mr. Zheng was sitting in the office. It was already 1 o'clock in the second half of the night. The ashtray was full of cigarette butts, and the whole room was filled with smoke. A ledger is placed on the table, and the VCD factory has invested 18 million as a whole, which is the profit of Desheng and Deegan last year. He originally wanted 18 million to leverage the big man of GFN Electronics, but he didn't expect to lose the bottom line and lose all the profits for a year. It is not fatal for a company, but it will fall behind. When all companies are investing money, expanding the market, promoting brands, and launching new products, Mr. Zheng can only maintain the current state. If the market is further sluggish, a vicious circle will be formed. The market will not wait for anyone, any company. Once it falls behind, it means losing the future. Mr. Zheng understands that he can only guard these two small companies forever, and he will never have such an opportunity again. Until more than 20 years later, these two companies are still the leading radio companies, but there are still a few people. What about the radio? There is a document in front of Li Quanliang's desk. He is about to be transferred out due to management errors and the loss of state-owned assets. This is just a notice. It will take some time for the real document to come down. From tomorrow, he will no longer be able to operate Changhong. Last summer, Sun Yuanqing was deceived by Lu Feng. His 80 million assets were used by Lu Feng for a few months because of a contract, which caused the sales of Wipita TVs to skyrocket. When he was sitting in this position at the time, his palms were sweating with excitement, and he had been the general manager of a broken agricultural machinery factory for half his life, thinking that this step was his way to take off. Unexpectedly, in less than a year, he followed in the footsteps of Sun Yuanqing. Li Quanliang hated in his heart. He sniffed and lit a cigarette. He didn't want to leave. If he was transferred, he would definitely go to the pension unit. He was very unwilling, but there was nothing he could do. Leave a message for the next one. This is the most he can do now. Pick up the pen on the table and write on a piece of paper, "Be careful of Lu Feng, be careful of Jiafeng Electronics." The next day, a week later, Lu Feng participated in the morning meeting again. Today is April 6. Lu Feng sat in his seat, glanced at the scene, and said, "The market is about to recover, and the new factory will be notified to start production as soon as possible. The department will do the corresponding work well, and we don't have much time, only 2 or 3 months. During this period of time, to build a brand, to carry out bombing advertising effects, to make all ordinary people think of VCD, the first thing that comes to mind is the golden leopard. At the same time, in terms of talent training, don't wait for school graduation. You can recruit in advance, hold more activities, and carry out long-term talent transfer work with many universities. In terms of the market, we must have enough tenacity to open up new markets and terminal markets, and we must develop diversified promotion models, billboards, posters, wall advertisements, inflatable arches, etc., and add more content to the disc content. Great mining efforts should enrich the user experience." Everyone present had a solemn look on their faces, and there was only one voice left in their hearts. The previous production and sales were just testing the water, but this time, they are really going to take off. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 529. The theme of the meeting is very simple. All departments must return to their best state as soon as possible. If there are not enough people, they will recruit people. If anyone dares to delay production, don't blame Lu Feng for being rude. The propaganda department has also been assigned a task. This morning, Lu Feng saw that all major newspapers were reporting that inferior pirated copies had been seized. These media outlets had a feeling that they were going to give Lu Feng another blessing. Lu Feng knows better than anyone about the road of creating a big tree and attracting wind. He is a low-key person and a high-profile person. Let the legal department beat these media. Don't write all day long, especially the content about Lu Feng. If you can't see the newspaper, don't write it. Lu Feng has been reported a lot during this time. He is not only famous in the electronics industry, but also some ordinary people who are concerned about technology have also noticed him. Fame is a double-edged sword. When you are good, public opinion can hold you to the sky. What kind of hero, industry guide, enthroned gods, and when you are bad, they can scold you as stinky shit. Come. At some critical times, he may be kidnapped by public opinion. This is also a point that is extremely easy to be attacked by opponents. What Lu Feng has to do is to be a trader hiding behind the scenes and try not to be influenced by the outside world. Otherwise, if you say that you are patriotic today, and tomorrow will lead the public opinion, you will be a traitor. The morning meeting was not long. After an hour, it started to get busy. The new factory was running at full capacity. The trucks began to pull out the goods one by one. This huge production machine started running instantly. Lu Feng didn't eat breakfast, so he went back to the office to call Zhu Lidong, stood at the desk, and made a call. Mr. Lu, I just finished the meeting, and I have freed up these few months, which is definitely enough for us. Zhu Lidong's voice was very excited. Lu, I have already got through to you, and all the competitors have been unplugged. If you give it back to me and I can't do it well in the market, you will get out of my way. At the same time, we must increase the development of sales channels, arrange the sales points reasonably, and tell the dealer merchants, it's time to make money. I promised them at last year's dealer conference, and I did it today, Lu Feng shouted in a deep voice. Mr. Lu, don't worry, in such a market environment, if I still can't do well, I will roll out of the factory with my luggage on my back, Zhu Lidong shouted angrily. The marketing department needs to achieve offline sales channels everywhere. For the provinces that have not been opened up, they must be opened up this year. Except for some remote areas, Shaanxi, Anhui, Hunan, Hubei, and the 3 northeastern provinces must be won as soon as possible. In advertising, it is necessary to put out the points of genuine, high quality, and reliable quality. At the same time, interact with Wei Yandan to strengthen the star platform and publicity. In the publicity slogan, use Golden Leopard. Gold quality is the main propaganda point. Carry out propaganda, and let the product take root in the hearts of users. Lu Feng said a lot about the key points of publicity, especially the layout in various provinces. Originally, for the northern provinces, because of the logistics cost problem, Lu Feng decided to open it up this year. First, let the Golden Leopard VCD occupy the market, otherwise it will be a gathering place for pirated copies, and secondly, explore the way for the TV set of Wipita next year, and carry out the national layout. After hanging up, Lu Feng called Wei Yandan again. Hey, Mr. Lu, we're already doing publicity here, we've finished contacting CCTV, and in the please join column in the variety show, we will send stars up to conduct interviews and performances as compatriots in Xiangjiang. Insert a 7-second advertisement and quote 1 million, Wei Yandan Hui reported. Only 1 million, Lu Feng called out. 7 seconds, a million is not much, and the price has skyrocketed in the past 2 years, Wei Yandan said. I heard that it was only 100,000 a few years ago. The ratings of this show are particularly high. For CCTV, 1 million in 7 seconds is really cheap. You must know that the 10 seconds of the bell at midnight on the Spring Festival Gala has already sold for a sky-high price of 38 million. Okay, approved, don't report this price to me in the future, you must learn to guide the stars and cultivate the image of GFN Electronics in the hearts of young people. These people are not the main consumers now, and they will grow up in a few years. In their eyes, GFN Electronics will form a good image. Let the stars mention us more, mix it in the movie, sing a song, and when you are about to sing the next song, mention a sentence in the middle, and then record it and make it into a CD for sale, understand? Lu Feng asked. Understood, I'll arrange it later, and future entertainment and publicity work will use this as the main work point. For some content development, Lu Feng asked Wei Yandan to step up the time. In this regard, he can ignore the profit, but there is one point, CDs must be flooded like tapes as soon as possible. In addition, Lu Feng has increased the introduction of simple physical movies in the island country. How to stimulate consumers most quickly is to let consumers know that this thing can be given to him, but other products cannot. Desire. The first driving force to promote consumption. No matter what kind of desire you see in others, you see the outlet. At this time, you are very close to success. When your product is what others desire, then the market explosion is really very simple. During the day, Lu Feng was very busy. In the afternoon, he heard some news in the industry. Li Quanliang was dismissed. President Zheng announced that he would dedicate his life to the radio. He said that the sound from electromagnetic waves is the sound of this world. The most beautiful sound, they are more professional because of their focus. Hearing this, Lu Feng had to give Mr. Zheng a thumbs up. It was not easy to speak so nicely at such a time. Other companies have also begun to vent to the outside world, because some unknown investments have suffered huge losses. Some companies even said that this is the darkest moment for the industry. I hope everyone can hold back their grief and move on. These are big companies and decent people. Some small and medium-sized enterprises directly scolded them. Many even sued Jiafeng Electronics. The problem causes huge losses for the enterprise. For these people, Lu Feng had no time to agree. Zhu Lidong's execution ability can't be said. In the afternoon, signs were put up in front of electrical stores and stores in various cities and counties. Mr. Jiang's photo was enlarged and placed on the plaque, the arch at the door, and the employees walked along the street holding the banner. It can be said that all the propaganda methods that can be achieved in a short period of time have been made. In less than an hour, there was a queue in front of the counter of Jiafeng Electronics. Although most of the pirated VCDs were seized, there were still many stocks in the hands of small and medium-sized enterprises and private workshops. Some people still wanted to sell them cheap. This is why Lu Feng said that the market share of the Golden Leopard in the next few months will be more than 90%, not 100%. At 8 o'clock in the evening, everyone was waiting for the dealer to report the sales data. After a series of summaries, a female clerk held a fax in her hand and said excitedly, "Today's sales of Golden Leopard VCD is 27,864. Everyone at the scene was excited. This number is far from the peak of the Golden Leopard, 30,000 units per day. In fact, it is not a big deal, but when this kind of sales was lost and obtained again, everyone understood the feeling. We've got the market back. We've won." The phone call to Zhu Lidong was still open, and he said excitedly, "Congratulations to Jiafeng Electronics." Lu Feng's office was crowded, and everyone was excited. During the period of production shutdown, everyone was very anxious, and felt that Jiafeng Electronics was really going to collapse. For many people, Jiafeng Electronics was a big company. Family, it's busy here, but it's so fulfilling. We are always fighting, always full of passion, always facing the sun. No matter how big the twists and turns are, the victory will belong to us. Lu Feng was a little excited and said loudly to the people present. The scene was crowded, and the audience was silent, all eyes staring at the young man. Lu Feng climbed up to the desk. Zhang Fengxia stood by the desk, raised her head and looked at the man. Her eyes were full of small stars. "This is just the beginning. We will set sail towards the sea of stars in the electronics industry. No matter how much risk there is in the future, we will achieve success. We will work hard in this industry, and our single-day sales will never stop. At 100 million, a single-day profit of 7 or 8 million. Dream big, step big, courage big, and walk out a golden road of Jiafeng people. In the future, we will stand above the trend of the global industry. It is too simple to change one person's fate, but to change a group of people. The fate of people is not difficult. We want to let electronics change the world. Always be full of passion, always stride forward, always be enthusiastic, buy gun battles, pull out the big drum that was beaten during the new year, celebrate and celebrate, lively and lively," Lu Feng shouted with a big hand. The crowd crowded towards the outside. Zhang Fengxia showed a smile on her face, reached out to touch her face, and she did not know when her eyes were wet. Perhaps this is the most charming thing about Lu Feng. He is always confident and strode forward. It will only leave you with a shadow. Feng Xiao never thought that beating gongs and drums can make people so excited. Only when he is participating in it can he understand the meaning of all this. He is honored. Zhu Lidong sat in his seat and stared blankly at the starry sky outside the window. Hearing the noise on the phone, he couldn't help laughing and said to himself, "Salute to you." The fireworks blasted into the sky and burst into splendid brilliance. Lu Feng was as happy as a child. He was beating the drum with a stick in his hand. A group of people laughed, their faces froze, but they still felt that it was not enough. The joy in their hearts from darkness to light seems to be not enough to express.